This is Prasad Mynumpati. Today we are going to look at the data guard, how data guard really works, what kind of protection modes that are supported, especially with the 11G release 2, what is active data guard or active standby, and how that is going to help us. Basically, data guard is to implement high availability high availability of database. When we talk about the database, we are talking about control files, read log files, and data files. As we know already, control files and read log files can be protected by multiplexing, and database files can be replicated to a different location using data guard. So the entire database is available on a different location. Generally, data guard is implemented across the sites, unlike real application clusters. RAC is implemented within the site to protect the instance failures. Data guard is implemented across the sites. Though the primary database is down, still the secondary database is available. We can make it available. And there are changes between 10G and 11G in setting up data guard. The options that we have, like the major one is active data guard or active standby. Active standby. Let's look at what is active standby. Prior to 11G, the standby database, let's say for example, I have my production database or here in New York. Let's say this is set up in New York, my primary database, and I can set up my standby, physical standby, in somewhere California. Okay, this is in California. So where I will have the network set up between these two locations, which is at high bandwidth and low latency. The main component for data guard is the network. After having the setup done, the network plays a critical role in transmitting the data from primary to secondary. This is, I would say, my secondary database. That depends upon the type of protection mode that we are using. Let's talk about protection modes. Protection modes that are supported in setting up data guard is max, performance, max protection, max availability. The moment we set up data guard, by default the protection mode is under max performance. When the database is set up in max performance, this is purely working based on the arclog files. As and when arclog file is generated on production, that will get shipped to the standby. As a standby database is in MRM mode, which is managed recovery mode. So basically it is under recovery mode. As and when arclog file is shipped from primary site to secondary site, this particular arclog files will get applied to the standby database. That's the concept. That's a default setup. In that case, there can be a data loss when there is loss of read log files on production environment. In order to protect the transactions that are there in the read log files not made yet to arclog file, we can implement max protection. Protection mode can be shifted to max protection. When we say max protection, as the name says, it is protected. What extent? Till last commit. Let's say I just issued a statement like update or something like that in a DML. Once I make commit, as we know, the commit will make sure the data will be written to the redo log files. Once that is done, if production goes down for some reason, still my transaction is saved onto the standby. For that, we need to make sure we have standby redo log files also. Without standby redo log files, we cannot shift the protection mode from max performance to max protection. That means when your production database is enabled max protection, all the transactions that are committing to the production must be written to the standby redo log files also. Then only you get the commit complete message. When the database is set under max protection, in case if standby database is down, production cannot function. What do you mean by production will not function? If we issue commit, you will not get the prompt back unless that particular information is being written to the standby redo log files also. That's why they call max protection. So we are giving the high priority to the transactions. We are compromising on the availability on the production. So in case of max protection, both production and standby must be available, and we must have created standby redo log files in case of max protection, and whatever content that is there in the redo log files of the production must be available in the standby redo log files also. Then let's look at what is max available. When we say max available, it is like max protection. In case standby is not available, production can continue. So in case of max performance, this is basically arclog files. In case of max protection, this is basically based on the redo log files. Max available also based on the redo log files, and both needs standby, redo. Here also standby, redo. The difference between these two, in case of max protection, if standby is not available, production cannot function. In case of max available, in case of standby is not available, production still can continue. In case of max availability, in case of max performance, there can be data loss. In case of redo log files loss. Whereas max protection, no matter what, we might compromise on the availability of the production than compromising on the data. Then especially in 11G release 2, what they call is active standby. Active standby, what does that mean? Prior to 11G, standby database must be in MRM mode. If you wanted to make standby read only, you have to take the database out of MRM mode. That means it's no longer in the recovery. Then you can read it. Meanwhile, whatever arclog files got generated in case of max performance, then when you put it back into MRM mode, all those arclog files can be applied on the standby. So whereas in case of 11G release 2, because of the active standby, database can be in MRM mode. Still database can be opened with a read only. Unbelievable feature. Because of this advantage, most of the corporates are looking at DataGuard, because prior to 11G, standby is just sitting there and then recovering it, that's all. Losing production is not a regular phenomenon. In a way, the infrastructure is getting wasted. Unless production goes down, standby can come back. There's a limitation basically. You're not literally making use of the resources and the investment that we made on the standby. In case of 11G release 2, because of active standby thanks to Oracle, we can keep standby in read-only mode. The entire reporting can be redirected to standby itself. Depends upon the production mode we enable on it, and depends upon the lag time that a corporate can accept on getting the reports and all that. We can configure appropriate protection mode. So ever since Oracle started supporting active standby, now entire reporting can be diverted to standby, and production can be just left it for OLTP. Unbelievable. Majority of the performance issues that are causing because of reporting and all that can be eliminated just by shifting reporting from production to standby. This is a wonderful feature. So that way we can make use of the infrastructure that we have spent for the standby, and we can improve the performance on production just by keeping it for OLTP, online transaction processing, and standby can be addressing all the reporting and stuff like that. If you think one standby is not sufficient enough to address all the requests that are coming to, you can have one more standby. Standby 1, standby 2. You can configure that too. Maybe this can be used for Asia Pacific, and this can be used for Europe, and this can be like North American continent. So that's how we can really achieve the performance as well as the availability of the database. Depends upon the environment and corporate requirements. We can able to configure DataGuard. Now let's see some kind of demo on what we have discussed so far. And other thing, if you wanted to do the switch over, you can do that too. If you need production for something, you can make production as standby, you can make it standby as a production, you can fail over. Basically this is what we call switch over. You switch over to the other one. So having said this, the basic stuff, let's look at how this is going to work. And here I have set up two servers. One is the production, which is primary. The other one is, which is in blue color, that's what I call at this point, it's the primary. I have one more configured. The green one is a standby. I named it as a DataGuard. So this is the one standby, and this DBA one is the production one. Now let us look at the status of the database on production first before we start the standby. So database is up and running. Select protection mode, comma, database role from $database. Now as we discussed, default protection mode is max performance, which is purely is going to work based on the arclog files, and this site is primary site. Do the same when we start up. Let's start the standby environment, which is our green one. You can identify by looking at this DataGuard. SQL, let's see if it is yep, let's start. This is DBA, startup, no mount, alter database, mount standby database. And as we just discussed, we can keep this database in read-only mode, which is active standby. Let us do that. Alter database, open read-only. That's possible. 11G. Now let's put the databases in recovery mode. Alter database, recover managed standby database, then say disconnect, so that you get the prompt back. Now we have production up and running, we have standby up and running, and let's see. If I say archive log list, here it's 274 on the standby. Let's look at here. Archive log list 274 is the current log sequence, so it's in sync. Let's do transactions and see what happens. Not to forget, basically this is in max protection, this is in max performance, which is the default mode. You can see here max, this is under max performance. That means it's going to work based on the archive log files. So if I make a connection to a user, let's say for example SQL plus u1 as database open in read only, definitely I can see what is the protection mode and all this on this. What is the role of the database on the standby also. Let's look at this. Here we go. That's how we can identify what database it is. It is physical standby. Of course, it is under max performance protection mode. Now, the blue one is the production one. U1. Let us check select count star from T4. There is a table. It's having about 2048 rows in it. I'm going to insert into T4 select star from T4. Now issue the commit statement. Now we have not, archive log file is not generated, so change will not be appeared on the data guard side. Select count star from T4, still 2048. The moment I switch on production, as we discussed, it is working based on the archive log files. Say alter system, switch log file. I'm just going to switch the log file. Now log file is being switched, and now we should see the change. 2048 should become 4096. So max performance is purely working based on the archive log files itself. The moment archive log file is generated on the production, that will get shipped to the standby location. That will apply automatically because standby database is under recovery mode. Of course, we are able to see because database is already opened with read only, the latest feature of 11G. That's how we can check. Now, if we wanted to change the protection modes from max performance to max availability or max protection, other two than default one requires standby redo log files because it is protecting the information which is there in the redo log files also. So let us switch the protection mode from the production. Before we do that, as we discussed, the rule is we have to have the standby redo log files ready on the standby server. Okay, let's go ahead and create standby redo log files also on this. So I'm going to create two redo log file groups on the standby. Okay, let me connect here and issue the statement so that it's going to get flashback. Recovery is in progress. Okay, let us cancel the recovery for a minute and then we can put it back the recovery mode again. How do we do that? Alter database, recover managed standby database, cancel. Let's pull out from the recovery mode. Then add the required redo log files to it, the first one and the second one. So we have group 10 and 11 added as not the regular one, it's a standby redo log file group. Okay, now standby is ready to have the production to shift from one production mode to other production mode. So now what we can do is, let's change the production mode to maximum availability. Okay, let's put the database into mount state, shut down immediate. Because this entry should be made to the control file, so that the protection mode now onwards is going to be maximum availability. So say startup mount production database, and the way we have to start the standby database also little different, because not from arclog location, it must be recovered from the standby redo log files. So for that we shut down the standby also, shut down immediate. So we took both the databases down, and it has been mounted now, our production database, and I'm going to change it to max availability. Alright, now say alter database, just open the database, alter database, open. Now once database is open, let us check the protection mode. Select protection mode, then database role 2 from $v database. Now it should show us max availability, and the database is a primary database. So we have created required redo log, standby redo log files. Let's start the standby also. Startup, no mount, alter database, mount standby database, standby database. Now once we mount it, we can open database, alter database, open read only, so that when we do the transactions we can read it. Then we should put the databases in MRM mode, alter database, recover, managed standby database, disconnect. How? Using current log file. So using that, it's going to start the recovery. Now when we perform any transaction on production, the moment we commit without log switch, because it is not dependent on the arclog file, we should be able to see the change on the standby itself. That's what we are going to see now. Now let's make a connection on production. Let's say connect to U1, select count star from T4, we got about 4096 rows, and let's make a connection on the standby also, so that we can execute connect U1. Now select count star from T4, yes, 4096 on both the databases. Now I'm going to insert on production, insert into T4, select star from T4. I have not committed, as dirty reads are not allowed, even though it's within the database itself. We can't see that right now, so we see only 4096. The moment I say commit here, there we go. Just by committing, making it permanent, that data is being replicated to your data guard environment. That's what the max availability. So you don't need to really do any log switch. So the difference between max availability and max performance, though my standby database is not available, I should be able to proceed on the production environment. So let us simulate that. I'll just go and crash my standby database by killing the mandate background process, kill -9. Now standby is crashed. No more standby available right now. As it is in the max availability, let me perform the transaction here. Let me insert. Yes, I should be able to insert. Say commit, I should be able to commit to. Now let us check how many rows we got. Obviously double. So 16,384. Well, what about my standby? When you bring it back, your standby, automatically recovery can be done. So let us look at that. Now let's connect to standby. Now database is not available. So let us start the database, standby 1. Startup, no mount. Alter database, mount standby database. Alter database, open, read only because we need to check whether the recovery is done or not. Alter database, recover managed standby database, disconnect using current log file. Okay, there's a typo in there. Log file, log file. Okay. So once database is up, let's connect to the, let's use the other session of the data guard. Here it is, the data guard one. Let's connect to SQL plus u1 select count star from T4. Here we go. How many we got here? 16,384. So we don't need to do anything. As soon as we bring it back, it's going to do the required recovery. Well, how about if standby database is down for a few hours? Meanwhile, there are many arclog files got generated on production. Is my physical standby is going to take care of it? Of course. Let's simulate that and see what happens. On production, okay, let's simulate the crash again. PS-CF grep, smon on the standby side, kill -9. I'm just going to crash my standby. Then let's do few transactions and generate some arclog files too. Insert into T4, select star from T4, say commit, and then let's do some switches so that arclog files, alter system, switch log file, one more. So the data is no more available in the online redo log files. It's been pushed to the arclog files. Now let's see how our standby database is going to handle this situation. So let's say PS-CF grep smon. Now database is not available. Let's start that as DBA. This is our data guard. Startup, no mount. Alter database, mount standby database. Alter database, open, read only. Alter database, recover, managed standby database, disconnect using current log file. Once this is done, let's go and check in data guard. Let's connect to U1 while it is opening. U1 select count star from T4. Here we go. How many we got here? Obviously that's it. Select count star from T4, right? 32,768. So that's how max availability is going to work. Then what's the difference between max availability and max protection? In case of max protection, production will come standstill if standby database is not available. Let's simulate that and see what happens. So for that, I'm going to take my standby database down. Kill -9. Let's do that. Before that, let's put the database in max protection. From there, we simulate the crash. So, show user here. Say shutdown immediate. Now let's take it to mount and then enable max protection. Okay, startup, mount, let us change the protection mode to maximize protection. Let's say alter database open. Because it requires standby to be available when you start up with max protection. Now select protection mode, comma, database role from $v database. Here we go. Now it is max protection. Of course it is primary database. Now let us simulate situation. What happens? Let us see. Now let us simulate the crash. Kill -9 4431, which is mandate of data guard. Then no more data guard server available. Now it is down. Now let me perform a transaction and see what happens. Connect U1 because we took the database down. Now insert into T4, select star from T4. That's fine. Then issue commit. That's it. Now it comes standstill. It cannot give you the message saying commit complete unless this information is being written to the standby redo log files. Now let us start the standby back and see what happens. SQL plus as sys DBA. Startup, no mount, alter database, mount standby database, alter database, open, read only, alter database, recover, managed standby database. Disconnect using current log file. Alright, let's go and see what happened. Now you got the commit complete. Wonderful. So as soon as we have the standby database available, your production start functioning back. That explains without standby availability in case of max production cannot proceed with the transactions. So let us look at that, what happened on the standby side. Connect U1, select count star from T4, 65,536. Let's look at here. Obviously count star from T4. Here we go. That's how we can shift between different modes, the functionality of the different modes. Hope you guys enjoyed the demo. See you back with something different later. That's all for now. Thank you.